Well, welcome back to BTCS's channel, building industry-leading blockchain solutions as companies are expanding their treasuries with crypto. We're going to talk about obviously BTCS continuing to acquire Ethereum and quite a other sector-related questions here. And we have obviously the privilege of Charles Allen, the CEO, joining us. First and foremost, welcome back, sir.
Yep, Kyle, it's always a pleasure to be here.
And you guys have been on the forefront of this for a while, but it seems as blockchain continues to expand, obviously a lot of companies are considering adding it to a part of their treasury. We're seeing a lot of companies start converting. Maybe give us some insight on your thoughts around this.
So on that, I mean, we've been expanding our Ethereum holdings. We added another 1,000 ETH since we last caught up. That was primarily or 100% through borrowings on Aave, which is a decentralized lending and borrowing platform on built on Ethereum's blockchain. So that's a great way to do it. Cost of capital was net about just under 3% at the time of initiation. So that's great. But yeah, to your point, there's a lot of companies that are adopting this digital asset treasury strategy. It's probably one of the hottest trades on Wall Street. I actually just did a thought leadership piece I put out earlier today and break down the anatomy of the target companies that are looking to do this, why certain companies are a better fit for these strategies. So it's something if you haven't had a look at it, it's posted on X. I see another easily, $2 to $8 billion flowing into the strategy. There's an announcement this morning with Anthony Pompanello. They're going to do $1 billion into a SPAC. So I don't think that's as good a structure, but overall, it's probably one of the hotter trades on Wall Street.
Yeah, definitely appreciate the insight there. And you just kind of briefed on that you acquired another 1,000 ETH, expanding your holdings to over 14,600. Do you want to just kind of reiterate your ETH plan and kind of how you're adding it to the company's balance sheet?
We're doing it in a very, we want to scale as fast as possible, but also keeping in mind dilution. We want to grow the market cap by price appreciation, not through share dilution. We've seen many companies do that. I'd rather grow at a more conservative pace, and not dilute our shareholders while adding. So when we did that 1,000, I think we did 1,000 ETH just a few weeks before that. That was a combination of using our funding from the ATM when the stock was at higher prices, as well as Aave. This one was 100% Aave just because the stock is down. We didn't want to sit on the ATM. And so we're looking at how do we grow our ETH balance sheet as fast as possible with minimal dilution to our shareholders.
Now, do you want to talk about the ETH ecosystem a little bit? I know we kind of touched on ETH gas kind of going into the call here, but maybe just kind of tell us your thoughts just kind of around that.
Yeah, so in terms of how you scale Ethereum, obviously the transaction times and block times are much slower than other competing blockchains, but ETH has the kind of the most amount of developers on it. And so to kind of put this in plain English, what ETH Gas does is it's a platform built that allows for blocks to be kind of sliced and diced so that you can buy the top of the block, the middle of the block, the bottom of the block. You can buy a block in advance, like a pre-confirmation, and it is a marketplace allowing you to do that. Because at the end of the day, you don't need transactions to end up on chain instantly, right? Just think about how the stock market works. When you buy a stock on Robinhood, you don't own that stock instantly. You have a right to that stock, and the trade hasn't settled. So right now we're at T plus one. Before that was T plus two. For most of my life, it was T plus three. And if you want to date yourself, it was T plus five. It's like 5 days for stocks to settle. Now we're within a day. And so what happens when you do that trade, you've effectively bought it, but the settlement hasn't occurred. And that's kind of what ETH Gas does, is it allows validators that opt into the system to stand behind that they will, when that block comes up, they pre-sold that space and it could get, sliced and diced and sold in a marketplace that validator is committed to write that block to the blockchain. So it's kind of gaining speed by the separation of transaction and settlement, because everything doesn't need to happen instantly, or at least it doesn't need to settle instantly. But having that pre-confirmation that it's going to occur is kind of game changing, and that's how you get a massive increase in speed.
Yeah, no, for sure. I definitely appreciate your insight today. As always, we'll pass it off to the viewer, though. We'd love to know what you think in that comment section and subscribe for news catalysts like this as it comes down the wire. But on the note, we look forward to catching you in the next one.